Welcome to Movie Slice. Quick, fun recaps of your favorite movies, sharp, funny, and to the point. Hit subscribe and get your perfect slice of cinema. The film Downsizing begins with a story in an American laboratory where we see a scientist conducting tests on mice. Afterwards, he goes to his colleague and tells him, "We succeeded and achieved the result we wanted." After some time, a conference is held, and one of the scientists appears, saying that they've found a way to better preserve the planet's environment due to the overpopulation happening in the world. Suddenly, he reveals his colleague, the other scientist, and to everyone's shock, this scientist has become smaller, only a few centimeters tall. He tells them that this is their new discovery that will change humanity for years to come, and that this will reduce pollution. 10 years after these events, we see Paul, who is a physical therapist working in one of the labs. Later, we see him at a restaurant with his friends, and they are following the news about the project to shrink people. He returns home and meets his wife Audrey. The next day, they go to a party and meet their old school friends. Some of these friends surprise them by revealing that they have become small people. Paul sits with his small friend, who tells him that everything is better now. They're living the life of luxury they've always wanted, and everything is cheaper for their size. Their words affect Paul and Audrey, and they both head to the place where the small people live. There, Paul and Audrey see the luxurious life offered to small people. They can buy mansions at very low prices, have more food, less waste, and enjoy protection and special privileges. All this convinces Paul and Audrey of the idea. They meet with an employee, who tells them that if they sell all their belongings and gather their savings, they can get the most luxurious mansion in the city for small people. Paul and Audrey are convinced and start selling all their things. At night, they have a farewell party because they won't be able to come back after being shrunk. During the party, Audrey's father comes and tells her not to go because he isn't convinced, but he came for her sake. The next day, they go to the city, and the employee starts asking them if they fully agree and are mentally capable of undergoing the shrinking process, because it's impossible to return to their natural size. Audrey starts showing signs of hesitation and anxiety, but Paul goes through with it to make her happy and get rid of their accumulating expenses and debts. They wait their turn for the procedure, and when they're called, the employee tells them they will be separated during the process, and will meet again in 5 hours. They say goodbye, and Paul is prepared for the procedure. His hair, eyebrows, and teeth are removed. Paul and the others are injected with a substance that shrinks them. The door is closed, and the shrinking process begins. When the door opens, everyone, including Paul, is now smaller. Paul is told that Audrey will see him soon. Later, he is told he has a call, and when he answers, it's Audrey. She apologizes, saying she couldn't go through with it after her hair and eyebrows were shaved, and she can't leave her friends and family. She didn't shrink, and stayed her normal size. Paul tells her that he did all this for her, and she betrayed him, but she says she just wanted to make him happy and forgot about herself, so she's sorry. She hangs up, leaving Paul in shock. Paul goes to the city of small people and arrives at the house he dreamed of living in, but he had hoped to live there with his wife, who left him. A year passes, and we see Paul signing divorce papers from Audrey after she requested it. Paul starts adapting to the city and finds a new job. He goes to a friend's birthday party, where his friend tells him he needs to start a relationship after his divorce. Paul says he's already coming to meet someone. At dinner, he eats with Kristen, the woman he's dating, but while they're talking, a loud noise comes from the second floor. Paul says it's his neighbor, who parties every day. He goes up to ask him to turn down the music. His neighbor Dusan comes down, and Paul notices a real flower at its normal size, and asks where he got it, but Dusan ignores the question. Kristen leaves, and it's clear her relationship with Paul isn't good. Paul takes the flower and goes to Dusan's apartment, where he finds a party with many people. He starts mingling and looks for some meaning in the place. Someone offers him a pill, which is clearly a drug, and Paul starts hallucinating and partying wildly, until he loses consciousness. The next morning, he wakes up and sees one of the cleaning ladies walking strangely. Paul gets up and talks to her, but keeps focusing on her odd walk. He follows her and catches her stealing medicine from Dusan's house. She tells him she's not stealing, but has a sick friend and Dusan allowed her to take what she needs. She leaves, and he tells her he noticed she has a prosthetic leg, which affects her walk and causes her pain, something he figured out because of his profession. He starts helping her, and she asks him to help her sick friend since he has medical experience. She insists he comes with her, and they leave the city of small people, through a tunnel to the outside world. There, they meet the Vietnamese woman's friend, who is sick. Paul chooses medicine for her, and she tells him her friend's husband died. She got worse, and then developed cancer. She asks Paul to come back another day to fix her prosthetic leg. He returns, but when he asks about her friend, she says unfortunately, she died and would have died anyway. Paul tells her not to worry, and then starts fixing her prosthetic leg, and he asks if she misses her village, and she says there is no village anymore. It was flooded, and replaced by a dam. That's why she and her sister protested, were arrested, and as punishment she was shrunk. Paul accidentally damages her leg, and it's shown that he starts working in her place. She receives her new prosthetic leg, and then Paul starts helping helping her with her work and sees her as she takes food from the rich and distributes it to the poor with his help. Here, Paul discovers the human side within this girl, whose name is. So they go to Doosan's house to stay the night, and there Doosan sees Paul in this state. Paul asks for help and tells him, "Get me out of this." So they tell Ngok that Paul will come with us to Norway because we have work there and need help. Ngok says, "I always receive letters from Jorgen, and he asks me to come to Norway because he feels guilty for what happened to me." We learn that Jorgen is the famous scientist who discovered the shrinking process at the beginning of the film. She tells them she wants to go with them to Norway, and indeed, Doosan, his friend, Paul and Jock set off on a journey to Norway. While they are at sea, they meet Jorgen and his wife Anne. Jorgen tells them that the world will end because of methane emissions at the South Pole, and human life will end, and possibly they are the last remaining humans. After that they arrive at the colony of small-sized people in Norway, which is among regular humans without any wall or cover. There, Jorgen introduces them to some of the villagers. A woman from the village takes them and shows them the cellar. Paul asks her why it exists, and she tells him, "We built it in case of emergencies we couldn't face. We will hide inside this cellar starting tomorrow, and stay there until things return to normal outside. We might stay there for hundreds of years until things improve." The villagers gather, including Paul, Doosan, Ngok, and Jorgen announces that they will hide in the cellar and asks them to prepare. Afterwards, Ngok comes to Paul and says, "We are ready to return to our country. I miss my friends there." He tells her that they are all going to end and die anyway, and that they should hide with the others in the cellar, but she refuses and says, "You're crazy. I could never leave the people I love and enter this hole." She asks Doosan and his friend to convince Paul. The next day we see Paul enjoying himself with the villagers on their last day before entering the hole or cellar. Here, Ngok comes and asks about his true feelings for her, but Paul doesn't admit anything and remains focused on the importance of survival and staying alive. Regardless of her true feelings for him, he had another goal. Then we see them all gathered, watching the last sunset with the villagers. At night, people start entering the cellar or tunnel, including Paul. He says goodbye to Doosan and Jock gives him a Bible and asks him to remember. He enters the tunnel and starts walking, while on the other side, Doosan and Jock are waiting. Paul remains confused and lost in his thoughts, but he makes his decision and quickly returns to Doosan and Jock. He apologizes to Ngok and tells her he thought about what she said, and he doesn't want to live the rest of his life with those people. She had asked him before about his feelings, and he tells her, "I love you and want to be with you." Then they hear the sound of the door being prepared for detonation, so they hide. The door explodes, and they immediately leave. We see them on a plane returning to their country. Afterwards, they go to the place where Ngok used to live, and we see Paul distributing food to the people there, looking at them thoughtfully. From this story, we understand that despite knowing about the end of the world and all that, Ngok and her humanitarian spirit affected Paul and made him a different person. Someone who doesn't care only about himself, but cares about those around him and the world. Humanity remained despite people's differences and their different sizes. Here ends the movie.